Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show. Real talk, big opinions, and fearless conversations. From the front lines of politics to the latest in pop culture. From breaking sports headlines to the stories that move the world. Nothing's off limits, and nobody's holding back. Arrington Gavin is here to break it down, build it up, and keep it all the way real. So turn it up, lean in, and let's get into it. This is the Arrington Gavin Show.
What is happening, friends? What is happening? Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the biggest stories of the day, whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz. Look, we're diving deep and keeping it real. So do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and please get ready to join the conversation. My friends, on today's conversation, I'm so honored to have on an old friend. I still call him Coach. And so many others call him Coach. I have Michael Allen on, Director of Athletics for Regent University, very distinguished and very known university. If you're not familiar with it, it was founded by the late, great Pat Robinson. It's located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and they have been on the come up as far as on the athletic side. They've always been known just for their other programs, right? It's a university where you can get your master's, your bachelor's, your doctorate. I know they've always been known as like a law school as well, a broadcasting school. But now it's starting a new journey in the world of athletics, and that's why I'm so excited to have on my good friend Michael Allen, who is actually the athletic director at my alma mater, my old high school, Norfolk Christian High School, and he's also a fellow Chowan University grad. Well, at the time they were the Braves. I graduated when they were the Hawks, but hey, look, it's still in good company here. So I'm excited to have him on to talk about all the great things happening at Regent University and just the importance of athletics and sports in a university and college, right? We always talk about the other things as far as entertainment, right? You gotta have sports. You gotta have it. You need to build creativity and all of the whole 9 yards. But it's more than just entertainment, right? There's so much more when it comes to sports. For me, sports, builds character. It builds great friendships, brotherhood. You learn so much from sports. So that's really what we're gonna be diving deep in there. So, like I said, you're gonna be in store for a great conversation, and I'm telling you, I'm bringing out all the great guests this upcoming week, y'all. I've mentioned later on during the week I'll have Mayor Philip Jones. He's actually the mayor of Newport News, Virginia. For those who are not familiar with the Hampton Roads area, we have 7 cities. One of those 7 cities is Newport News, a thriving city, and Mayor Philip Jones is quite a popular cat over there in the Hampton Roads area and in the city of Newport News. So I'm honored to have him on. And we have some other great guests in store for you, because that's what we do here on the Arrington Gavin Show. But before I move forward, of course, I have to thank you all for taking 1 hour of your time to tune into the Arrington Gavin Show. Please do me a favor. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms, on Instagram at the Arrington Gavin Show, as well as Blue Sky, X, and also check out our Substack page. You can also tune into check out our website, the www.theagshow.com. You can contact us through there as well, and just kind of catch up on upcoming shows if you happen to been a little late to the party. It's okay. We're on demand. You can listen to the program on all major podcast platforms. As I mentioned earlier, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as on Rumble. You can also listen to us on the radio airwaves if you happen to be in the New Orleans area. Thank you so much, my friends. I want to shout out our New Orleans listeners listening to us right now by way of WBOK 1230 AM. What New Orleans is talking about. You can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show Monday through Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. Also, shout out to our listeners in the Metro Atlanta area by way of WDJY 99.1 FM. Straight talk. You can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, weeknights at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So multiple ways you can follow us. And what am I missing? Oh, and also Goatverse TV, the Goatverse TV network. It's a growing independent streaming platform where you can watch episodes of the Arrington Gavin Show. If you haven't downloaded the app yet, please do so. It's available on the App Store, Google Play Store, Roku, as well as Amazon Fire. So multiple platforms, multiple ways you can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show. As I mentioned earlier, y'all, I'm so honored and excited to have on a dear friend, Michael Allen. Coach, I call him Coach Allen. I still call him Coach Allen, but Michael Allen, AD for Regent University. And we're going to be having a great conversation on tap for you all today. So look, my friends, we are going to head to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have a lot more here on the Arrington Gavin Show. So look, don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Arrington Gavin Show.
Every man has a story to tell. Your ambitions, your achievements, your legacy. Your suit should reflect that story, crafted precisely, designed for impact, and tailored exclusively for you. We work with only the finest fabrics, luxurious wools, silk, linen, and blends from world-renowned mills in Italy, the UK, and India. These fabrics are the foundation of custom suits that exude elegance and stand the test of time. But a suit isn't just about fabric, it's about fit, and it's about confidence, and it all starts with you. When you work with me, you'll receive a personalized consultation, whether in person or over Zoom. Together, we'll explore your vision and discuss your needs. And we're going to bring your ideas to life. My journey as a designer includes apprenticing under New York-based designer Clavon Leonard, showcasing collections at New York Fashion Week, Algeria Fashion Week, and the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. That experience is what we bring to every suit we create, from weddings to corporate events and everything in between. We specialize in crafting one-of-a-kind suits for life's most significant moments. Dapper Luke has been recognized as one of Baltimore's best menswear in 2023, and I was honored to be one of the 10 designers selected for the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. With over 900 satisfied clients, we proudly serve Virginia Beach and Baltimore, bringing world-class designs to these incredible communities. We don't just make suits, we craft confidence. Your suit will fit your body, your style, and it will tell your story. Book your free online personal consultation today. Visit www.dapperluke.com.
Jazera Learning Institute, LLC, is a hybrid learning center that strives to educate adults and children in all fields. During the day, we offer Jazera Learning Institute, LLC, is a hybrid learning center that strives to educate adults and children in all fields. During the day, we offer programs that are focused on developing students from pre-K to 12th grade, which includes tutoring, homeschool co-op, an after-school program, SAT, ACT prep, and many more engaging academic programs. Our adult education programs include workforce trainings, GED prep, life coaching, various seminars, and many more. Our vision is to train and educate in a positive way that will lead to a positive change in the world, one person at a time. For more information, visit us online at JazeraLearningInstitute.com or call us at 757-208-7407.
Order your beard care products with Rugged Evolution. We're your local beard care line that supports the maintenance of your full, mature beard. Our line includes conditioning shampoos, moisturizers, balms, oils, shaving lotions, and exfoliating soaps. These products moisturize, hydrate, nourish, and have all the natural ingredients for a healty beard. Log on to our website or download our app to place your orders. Become a man of distinction with Rugged Evolution Beard Care. And remember,
Rugged is the new smooth.
All righty, family. Welcome back to the Arrington Gavin Show. I'm your host, your friend, Arrington Gavin. Before I bring on our special guest, I would love to go back memory lane to give you just a little bit of his resume. Set aside from being a successful high school and collegiate athlete, he was also has been a successful coach and athletic director. Now on collegiate level, spent 6 years coaching at Chowan University, Indiana State University, Lincoln Trail College, as well as Maryville College. He's then went on to head over to my alma mater, Norfolk Christian School, spending 15 years as the athletic director 12 of those years coaching men's basketball. Now, during his tenure, so I'm going to give you his tenure as an athletic director and then his tenure as a coach. So look, it's a long resume, and so just hold tight as I read you just a little bit of that. As his tenure as athletic director at Norfolk Christian, the Ambassadors captured under Coach Allen's watch. They captured 35 Tidewater Conference championships and 7 VISAA state championships. He was very instrumental in overseeing an addition of our football and boys lacrosse to the NCS athletic department. Created a booster club, helping them start the NCS Athletic Hall of Honor. He served as president of TCIS and Eastern Region. I mean, just a great career. And might I ask too, under his watch, there was a successful season for Norfolk Christian football, winning our first state title. I think that was my sophomore year. I want to say sophomore year. And it has been the first and only as of right now. I just gotta, not trying to brag up on, on our squad. We had a beast team that season. Also moving on to his success as a basketball coach. He guided the Ambassadors to 3 20-win seasons, 3 straight TCIS regular season titles, and 4 straight TCIS tournament championships. He was twice named the VISAA Division II Coach of the Year, TCIS Coach of the Year, and the Norfolk Sports Club Bob Bates Scholastic Coach of the Year. Again, so much success with Norfolk Christian, and then he has since then continued growing his career as an athletic director, working in various programs, Stonebridge School, building an athletic program at the apprenticeship school located in Newport News, Virginia. And now he is currently at Regent University, where he started in 2022, and he has since built that program to so much great success. So, all right. Finally, for the man of the hour, I know y'all been waiting like, who is this guy? Look, let me go ahead and bring on chill. Without further ado, let me go ahead and bring on our special guest, Michael Allen, athletic director for Regent University. Coach, how's everything going with you, my friend?
Man, it's going well. God is good. We got a lot of good things going on over at Regent, and I'm excited to share some of that with you today. But man, it's great to see you, Arrington, and you're bringing back a lot of fun memories there as you're reading off some of those accomplishments that we accomplished over there at Norfolk Christian.
Absolutely. It's been so long. It's been a while since I actually been at Norfolk Christian. I wasn't there not too long ago. Just was invited by a good friend of mine because they do like a seasonal magazine where they're just following up on some of their alum, and I was honored. They asked, "Hey, look, we would like to do a piece on you." I'm like, "Well, heck yeah, I'm coming," because it's been so long since I've been at NCS, and seeing the progression, just walking in the hallway, I mean, just brought back great memories. But first, Coach, I want to ask you if you could just give a small part of your upbringing. What led you to this career in athletics for you, if you don't mind sharing with the audience?
No, happy to do that. It all comes right back to my parents were both school teachers. My father was a high school coach and athletic director, and so, just tagging along with him from the time I could remember, 5, 6 years old, going to open gyms in the summer and going to watch him practices with his players and just being around sports really from the time I can remember. That just really helped lay that foundation for, a love for sports and athletics. And obviously, as you start growing and maturing, you start understanding kind of what athletics can do and help prepare you for life in all walks of life. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that, but really just the upbringing of my parents being in education.
Wow. So I skipped over the success as a high school and collegiate athlete. Was What was growing up? What was your like number one favorite sport? Like you said, okay, this is sport I can stick with for the rest of my life. I didn't have to. If I had to play only one sport, what was your favorite sport? Because I know you were an athlete and played multiple, but what was your go-to sport?
Well, surprisingly, I tell people that, growing up, baseball was probably my favorite sport.
Mhm.
I played from T-ball all the way up through, my senior year of high school. And then obviously once I went on to college, you had to kind of pick one. Um, But I wasn't really able to play organized basketball until I was in fifth grade. They didn't have,
Okay.
they didn't have upwards. They didn't have little rec leagues where I grew up. It was just kids just played pickup, right? So,
Hmm.
I had t-ball in the little league that I really got invested in, and myself and like a lot of my friends, our favorite sport was the sport that was ever in season, right? So, we love playing, pickup football in the fall, and then we love playing basketball in the winter, and then obviously playing baseball in the spring, and I love to run. But at the end of the day, probably as a young boy, my favorite sport was baseball, and then that just kind of grew as I developed as a baseball player. But once I started actually playing organized basketball, especially in the state of Indiana where I grew up, basketball was really king back in the day when I grew up. So I fell in love with the competition and going to the games, and just the intimacy of large crowds at a game versus a baseball. You're kind of distant from the crowds, based on the way the field was set up. But then it kind of grew into basketball, kind of took over my number one priority over baseball once I kind of really started getting into middle school and high school.
Awesome, awesome. Now we're in your, your college career. You have a great collegiate career as a basketball player at at the time Chowan College, and currently Chowan University. And at that time they were the Braves. Like I mentioned earlier, when I graduated, they were the Hawks. And so that right there started a love and a pursuit to say, okay, look, I want to stay in this industry of sports. But as I mentioned in the beginning, sports is more than just, you being active, picking up a basketball, doing this. What did basketball mean to you, especially as a college player? Because now you're in the form of, of growth. My parents always said, okay, when you get to college, you're going to grow as an individual. You're going to have your ups, your downs. This college is preparing you for the real world. So how was that journey as a collegiate athlete, as a student athlete for you?
Well, I think most people that go through that journey, there's some ups and downs. But just being a collegiate athlete and learning how to, manage your time, learning how to be disciplined, and as you well know, when you're in college, there's a lot of different distractions that can eat away and try to take your time, right? So,
Hmm.
when you're a student athlete, number one, you got to juggle your academics. You've got road trips, you've got practice, you've got games, and you've got a crazy schedule that the normal day student doesn't have, right? So it teaches you discipline, time management, and then obviously you've got to work in team settings and dynamics of working with different types of people, diverse people, and I
Hmm.
think that just really prepares you quickly for society. That um, I think a young man or young woman that doesn't participate in extracurriculars, especially athletics, I think they miss out on that. I guess catching up on some of those life lessons quickly that
Hmm.
really transpire and transition you into the real workforce. As a productive citizen. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, it just really taught me a lot about just hard work, discipline, fighting through adversity. And that's just one thing that I've always wanted to make sure that I stayed in was, the world of athletics in some form or fashion. I knew that when I was in high school, that I knew I wanted to be involved in sports really my entire life in some form or fashion. In reality, obviously start setting in. I'm probably not going to be a professional athlete, as we all
It's never
dream
too
of
late, coach.
being one day. There's always a chance, right? But I've always just loved sports and athletics and just growing up around it, and obviously, that passion for, what sports teaches you. I wanted to pass that along to the next generation behind me, and thankfully, through the good Lord, I've been able to do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, what was what was your first initial job in athletics, in the industry of in the world of sports? What was your very first job?
Well, my first job was a student assistant at Chowan. So, I transferred a couple times in my undergrad. I tell people jokingly, I was kind of ahead of what's going on in college sports now, where you see, people entering the portal and transferring, multiple times. That was not the norm back in the 90s, right? But
Hmm.
I transferred a couple times, and and, don't want to go into details of why, but, God taught me some lessons through all of those rough times, but, landed on my feet there at Chowan, and was able to have 2 good years, and then finishing up my degree my last year. Of course, my eligibility was up, so I transitioned over to a student assistant, where I was helping with our developmental team. We had a developmental team at that time, where I was, kind of a student assistant, did some scouting, some recruiting, helped with some off-season development with our basketball players. So that's really where I kind of first started cutting my teeth. And then once I graduated, I was able to go back home to my hometown of Terre Haute, Indiana, and my college coach at the time, Coach Burke. He knew the head coach at Indiana State, so he made a phone call for me, introduced me to this coach, recommended that I potentially could help him in some form or fashion, and was able to go back home that summer, work a summer camp there at Indiana State. And, the coach, I felt comfortable with me enough. He offered me at least a kind of a volunteer graduate assistant position. So I took a couple master's classes and started working towards my master's, and was basically a volunteer GA there at Indiana State for a year. So it's kind of how my professional life started.
One thing, Coach, what I'm hearing in that story you just shared, I talk a lot about it here on the program, is the power of networking relationships, right? Growing up, I remember like my first paid summer job. Well, at Norfolk Christian, we always had it was mandatory, like community service hours, right? So during that, I started off working a volunteer as a ball boy for the Paul Webb basketball camp. Now I did that for so
Yeah.
long. Then Coach Webb, the late great Paul Webb, had offered me, "Hey AJ, you want to have you want to do this?" Well, I'm like, sure. I mean, I had a great time because for one, it's nothing like having conversations with you know those who came before you. Like, I mean, just the conversations I had with Coach Webb was always so memorable. I mean, it could be old, stories of the players who came through this basketball camp from when he was coaching during his career. I mean, it was just so much, and stuff like when I was raised around my father being a former athlete coach. He was in that realm, which y'all work together. It will compete against each other. I know in high school as coaches, and so it's so interesting where it's like, okay, you build great relationships with this and that, because at the end of the day, y'all have one common goal, and that's to help guide the youth into a positive path they want to pursue at this sport, possibly long term, or just something just to keep them focused, keep them out of trouble, right? Because sports does bring on that responsibility. It turns you from a knucklehead to a man, and vice versa. So okay, so your first position, I just had to say that because when you had mentioned about the relationship, and that helped you with the position with Indiana State. So from there, your first let me see. So we went to first part. Okay, so what was the first paid job in sports? Because that was your first job as a volunteer. What was the first paid position in sports for you?
Yeah, well, the next year after Indiana State was I went to Lincoln Trail Junior College over in Illinois, and I made a whopping $1,000 as the assistant men's basketball coach. Had a free
Making the
apartment
big
to
bucks,
stay
Coach.
in,
I see you there.
making the big bucks, but paid $1,000 free housing. Um, Other than that, I had to work. We had a fitness center slash weight room there on campus that was kind of served as a dual role for the athletes there at Lincoln Trail, but was also a rec community fitness center for the local community. So
Hmm.
they sold memberships. People came in and worked out, consistently on day-to-day basis. And so part of my pay that I earned to help pay the bills, right, was manning the fitness center. And
Mm.
I tell our youth all the time, so many of them, they want that, elite top level job right out of college, right? They don't understand that you got to pay your dues sometimes. So
Absolutely.
when I tell that story, they're like, you did what for how much? Yeah, I worked probably 60 hours a week, making maybe $2,000, every other paycheck, So it's
Mhm.
just like it's unheard of these days, right? But
Absolutely.
that's what my generation grew up with. That you had to start at the bottom. You hear people talk about it. You can't just come fresh out of college and you're the CEO, right? You got to start down the mailroom and work your way up, right? So it's the same way in athletics. It's all goes right back to those relationships. Who do you know? Who can connect you with who? You never know when God's going to connect you to somebody. We talk to our student athletes at Regent all the time that, we encourage them to get out and volunteer, do community service, work our annual golf tournament. You never know who's going to be there, who you might make an impression with that might open up a door for you. So, same way with my college coach and the first couple guys that I worked with, they connected me to somebody else that then elevated me to another job. So it all goes right back to relationships.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to now transition from you as the player now to you're a coach yourself. You're a varsity coach. How was how was that? Because now you're solo and as an athletic director. Uh, as a coach though, as a coach, how was the journey on? How was that transition? How was that growth period as a varsity coach? Because you're coaching. I mean, teens. Some of them can be the most positive. Some of them can be the most I would say big headed, but they can be they can love some of themselves, right? They can be really into themselves. And how was that transition on becoming a coach, and then because you grew into an excellent career as a high school coach, but what was some proud moments during that period of your life as a coach, and has had that been a leeway to help build you as a leader as an athletic director? I know that was kind of like a all around question, but am I kind of making sense there?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll kind of touch on my early transition into coaching, after I was a player, right?
Hmm.
That was it was a fun time, but yet it was very frustrating and challenging at the same
Hmm.
time. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is people that know me, I'm not obsessed with it, but I'm a very competitive person. I hate to lose, right? And I
Hmm.
always been taught from a young age, if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability, right? And if you don't prepare, if you don't practice, it's just like your homework. If you don't study and do your homework, how do you expect to do well in your exams, right?
Hmm.
So it's the same thing with athletics. If you're not working, if you're not preparing, if you're not conditioning yourself, if you're not studying your playbook, whatever sport it may be, then how do you expect to compete at a high level, right? So you play like you practice. So part of my frustration was I was always one, maybe not the most talented, but I was always one of the hardest workers, if not the hardest worker. I was a
Hmm.
guy that I was always on time. I was always in the gym early. I was always one of the last ones to leave. I was always trying to win every sprint. I was competing, trying to win every drill, knowing that I wasn't, but that was the way I was wired, right? And then when you have talented athletes that are lazy, entitled, not coachable, they know it all, they're selfish, those were the guys that I really struggled with, and it took me a while to step back and not look at them through the lens of they need to be like me,
Hmm.
looking at it from the lens of, okay, God made them a certain way. How can I connect with them to get them to see that they're not reaching their maximum potential? So, and it took a few years to figure that out, to really figure out how to do that. But once I did, I started hitting my sweet spot there at Norfolk Christian. That's when things really started clicking for me as a coach, where I felt like I knew how to connect with student athletes. I knew how to push the right button because I took the time to get to know them.
Hmm.
And there's still things, looking back on it now, I would have done a little bit differently. Um, but hopefully, the majority of the players that played for me knew, a couple things. They knew I cared about them. They knew I challenged them, and I saw more in them than maybe they saw at times, and I was trying to bring them out of them. And hopefully, they know that when it was all said and done, regardless of what we did or did not accomplish on the court, that I loved them and I cared about them, and I was hoping to prepare them for life after athletics. So, that was kind of my mission there, and still is my mission to this day. That's the priorities. It's how can I help them be the best man, the best husband, the best father that they can be, and also have an enjoyable but hopefully successful time while they're competing still.
It's so important you say that, coach, because I know for one, and you speak about it, but when I in your a part of your story, how of your faith, right? I was raised in in the church. I was raised a man of faith. Still to this day, I'm always growing in my faith. But one thing I always tell my friends, I'll tell my wife, I'll always say, God, God brings us, certain points in our life. So we're like, why would he do this to us? Because in order to be successful, you have to fall, right? You fall 7 times, you get up 8 times. You learn from all those
Mhm.
previous mistakes. And so I know for me, and it's so funny to this day, because if ever I get a chance to run into, and I have once in a blue moon, some of my old football coaches, right? I embrace them with a huge matter of fact. I ran into, shout out to Coach Stone, who if he's listening, I ran into him at a restaurant a while back, which I haven't seen him in ages. And I was just telling my wife, like, it was a point I couldn't stand my coaches. Oh, I couldn't stand them. Oh, especially that one. But if I run into him, I'm giving him a big hug, because at the end of the day, I knew it was like, okay, as much as we hated running nonstop in the heat, right? As much as we hated this and that, it's like it was for our good, right? It was a lesson learned at the end of the day. And so I want to point that out, because faith has always been a huge part. I know in your career, and it continues to do so to this day, leading you to again a wonderful institution in Regent University. You had an amazing high school coaching career. I mean, you had great athletes to come from your, came from your squad. As I can, name one, James McAdoo, very humble guy. Shout out to the McAdoos too, because they're good friends. And he went on to, become a successful collegiate player. He still continued to play pros. He won I believe, I want to say 2 NBA titles, if I'm not mistaken, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
he,
Two.
so
Mhm.
too. So yeah, so just again, all led by your great coaching and leadership as well. Now let's move away from the coaching aspect, and let's talk about athletic, as an athletic director, as a director of athletics. So um how let's talk about the business side of sports. How was that transition? What led you to become an athletic director? Because we talk about the coaching, but what led you to that leadership role?
Yeah, great question. Well, as I was kind of winding my tenure down there at Norfolk Christian, I always had the itch to get back at the college level.
Hmm.
But obviously, being married, having 2 girls, I didn't want to uproot my family and move, right? I had opportunities and jobs that I could have, taken, and I turned them down because I just didn't want to uproot my family and move. And my wife and I made that decision that, we weren't going to move just for a job unless we absolutely had to. So, God provided an avenue. I was kind of in this little limbo period, just trying to kind of figure out the next chapter, and God just opened up an opportunity to go over to the apprentice school and be their director of athletics, which I knew a little bit about the apprentice school. I competed against them when I was at Chawan, but didn't know a whole lot about it. And
Hmm.
by the encouragement of Eddie Webb, Paul's son, he's the one that informed me about the job. And he's like, "Hey, you need to throw your name in the hat there." And I was like, Eddie, they're not going to hire me. I've been a high school AD for 15 years. He's like, "Hey, you never know. Throw your name in the ring." So I prayed about it. A couple of days later, went ahead and applied. About a month goes by, didn't hear anything, and then they called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, we want to interview you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So one thing led to another. They hired me, and I was there for 5 years. Had 5 good years there. But
Hmm.
like I said, I always had that desire to be in athletics, and as my tenure started progressing through Norfolk Christian, um, as much as I loved coaching, um, the administrative side paid the bills, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I knew being out of college coaching for so long that door was probably closed. So really just started leaning in more of just my professional development as an administrator, leadership classes, seeking out some mentors and really just trying to prepare myself for potentially that next step. Met with the current AD, Wood Seelig over at ODU, and he gave me some great advice. And then a couple years later, the apprentice job opens up. I got it, was able to kind of start cutting my teeth as a college administrator there. And, 5 very good, successful years over at the apprentice school. But be honest with you, that commute every day from Norfolk over to Newport News with construction project going on, man, you talk about a lot of wasted hours just sitting in tunnel traffic. And I got through about 4 years, survived COVID over there, and really just by the grace of God, I got a phone call out of the blue from the then AD at Regent, informing me that he was leaving. And I thought he was just calling me to just kind of give me an update. All right, man, that's awesome, man. Where you going? He informed me, and hey, thanks for letting me know. Whatever I can do to help you, just let me know. I'll be praying for you. And he's like, well, I called for another reason as well.
Wow.
My boss is asking for recommendations for the new athletic director here. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And I gave him your name. So once again, it goes right back to the relationships you have, the people you know. Um, and it all just continues to come full circle. So, I always had my eye on Regent. When they started athletics, I always felt like that place could be a little diamond in the rough here in the Hampton Roads area. And, I've been just coming on my 3-year anniversary at the end of this month. Be 3 years officially July 1st. And we've got so many cool things going on. So, to summarize and answer your question, I really felt like God was directing me more into that administrative role. On top of I had that yearning desire to kind of get back to the college level, and God's worked it out where I haven't had to move. I've been able to stay here in Norfolk and continue to, my wife kind of keep her routine, and my kids, I've been able to keep them at Norfolk Christian. They both graduated from there. Then my oldest daughter, moved on and graduated from Liberty. Now my youngest is going there. So, God's worked it all out.
That is awesome, man. I got a joke about that commute to Newport News. So a good friend of mine, and friend of the show, Tiffany Boyle, she's Commissioner of Revenue with the city of Newport News, and I always tell her whenever she has a function and stuff, and I'm attending one of her functions, I'm like, look, I gotta check the airlines because I'm in Chesapeake. That commute, that's a hump, Tiff. I gotta check. I gotta fly over there. I can't just drive and be like, okay, I'll be right there. And it's the evening too. Oh God, I gotta check the hotel stay, man. I'm a young old man. I'm 30, but I'm a young old man. I need to rest. So I just had to throw that out there. But so you mentioned Regent. You've always had your eye on Regent University, calling it a diamond in the rough. Now, personally, I've never, as many years of I've known the existence of Regent, I never knew athletics really exist at Regent University. So may I ask, how long has athletics been affiliated with Regent University?
Well, surprisingly, we're getting ready to go into year 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They started out, obviously you touched on it a little bit in your kind of pre-show talk, but Regent was founded back in 1977 by Dr. Robertson. He had a vision from God to build a university for his glory, right? So that's kind of our tagline of creating Christian leaders to change the world. But they started as a graduate school, right? People getting their masters and their doctorates, and then they shortly after that added the School of Law, and then I want to say it's close to 20 years now, maybe not quite 20 years, but roughly 20 years. They decided to start offering some undergraduate classes, and I don't know if this is an urban legend or not, but apparently he and Jerry Falwell, who founded Liberty, were good friends. And they kind of had a gentleman's agreement. Liberty will focus on the undergrad Christian development, and Regent would focus on the graduate school level, right? So I don't know if that's true. I haven't asked his son, who's our current chancellor, Gordon Robertson, right now. I want to ask him that if he knows if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard. But anyway, Liberty started a few years before Regent. They started in 1971 and Regent 1977. So, so yeah, we've had sports for about 9 years, and there were some good decisions in the early years, and there were some not so good decisions, and we're rectifying and kind of changing that. But everything in God's timing is perfect, and we're just excited about kind of where we're at and where we're going.
That's awesome. And one thing, again, just being 3 years now under your watch, they've announced of a new a $50 million expansion in their in athletics or in a sports facility. In addition to that, I know you guys joined what became a member of the NCAA Division III. Was that Coast to Coast? I'm trying to. So
Yeah. So just think Division One. You've got the NCAA, right? You've
Mhm.
got all the big universities, right? You got Virginia Tech, Duke, Carolina. You keep naming them. But then within that NCAA, you've got respective conferences, right? You've got the ACC, you've got the Big Ten, you got the Big 12, the whatever, right?
Mhm, mhm.
SEC. Well, we're going NCAA Division III. That's the national organization. Think Christopher Newport, Randolph Macon, Hampton Sydney, Virginia Wesleyan. And then the conference we're joining is the Coast to Coast Athletic Conference.
Mhm. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. I want to ask Coach, there's universities I know that in colleges that exist to this day that doesn't have any athletic programs whatsoever. They might have a few club sports, but they do not have any athletic programs. I want to pick your brain on really just the importance of having athletics at a university or a college. How important is it, especially for for students? How important is it in your eyes as an athletic director?
I think it's extremely important. Obviously, it's the chosen profession and the field that I'm in, but just I can think back on my experience just growing up. I mean, there's something to be said about going to a college campus and there's activity going on, right? If it's just going to class and going back to your dorm or wherever you live, okay, it's meeting a need there, right? But if you have a true undergraduate campus, there needs to be vibrancy and student life and things going on outside of the academic buildings
Mhm,
that contribute to that character development, right?
mhm,
So
mhm.
that was one thing that we talked about in my interview. Like I said, nothing negative against the people that came before me, but unfortunately they were kind of operating at just a level above like club and intramural, right? They were
Yeah.
given just enough to do it, but they weren't truly making the total investment. And that's one thing that I asked the interview committee when they were interviewing me for the position was, how committed are you to athletics? And they
Mhm.
said, well, we are. We just need somebody to come here and help guide us and help us figure this out. So I hit the ground running. I felt like it was a place we could grow and really build something special. And in just our short 3 years, this isn't me. This is kudos to from our chancellor to our board to our executive leadership team, all of our vice presidents and deans across the campuses. Everyone has rolled their sleeves up and they're 100% behind this growth process. And my department has grown from 3 full-time people to now we're getting ready to hire our 12th in 3 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
So,
That's amazing.
I mean that's amazing growth, right? I mean, we started men's volleyball this past year. We're getting ready to start baseball this coming year. The year after, we're starting softball. The year after that, we're starting men's and women's tennis. We've got this, $50 million athletic complex. We've been playing sports off campus. We currently play volleyball and soccer at Norfolk Christian, right? And to create that true undergraduate vibe and support, that's hard to do when you're asking your student athletes to drive 15, 20 minutes off campus. Then there's no way the majority of our students are going to get in their cars and drive. So just think of what it's going to do when we have our facilities on campus and how that's going to further expedite the growth and the excitement of our university, creating that true undergraduate experience that we're trying to create at Regent. So just the growth that God has brought to us in just a short 3 years, in the growth that's coming over the next 3 years, it's really amazing. It's just a God thing, but it goes right back to the people at Regent and the vision that they had, the strategic plan they had to really grow the undergraduate experience, and obviously athletics is a huge part of that.
Man, what comes to mind is the culture, as I mean, I'm just speaking as a former a student, a former college student. The bread and butter of universities nowadays are the sports, is the athletics. Like, I mean, I know tons of students that were not student athletes, but they like say, I'm going to this school specifically because of their basketball program. I'm going to be a season ticket holder when I graduate. I mean, it's what really builds up the university. It's not trying to take any thing away from the amazing faculties and professors that you have at all of the universities around our nation. But I mean, you look at, I'm speaking of big time sports schools. The Alabamas, the UNCs, the UVAs. I mean, the list goes on and on. A lot of their, primary retention rate, the growth of all the students that come to their universities is for athletics. Hey, I want to get to, especially with the announcement, I know, of Bill Belichick coaching the Tar Heels. I mean, who would have thought? So, you see a huge growth with that. But it's exciting seeing, at least for me, I always love seeing like the growing process. Again, looking at using Regent University as an example of, okay, you have, I believe, how many total sports do you have? Sports programs do you have on the university?
We have 12 right now. Just started our 12th with men's baseball, and we'll have 15 before it's said and done. And people throw other sports out there, and it's anyway. There's a strategic plan on why we're adding these sports. But yeah, we've got 12 right now, and it's exciting just to see the growth.
That is awesome. I want to ask, what are some of your future goals at Regent University as athletic director? What are some of your give me your, I know there's probably, I'm assuming, more than 5. I always ask, like, what is your top 5 goals? Oh, that's kind of tough. So what's some of your, say 2-year plans, 5-year plans? What are some of the goals in store for Regent University?
Well, the 2 immediate goals is, number 1, to get this facilities project completed. We're on timeline of hopefully completion in May of 2027. That'll give us a couple months to kind of move in once graduation and commencement gets through, and then officially kick off the fall of 27 of hosting athletic events and being on campus full time. Right. So that's probably the ultimate goal. We're having almost daily meetings. I had 2 today. I've got a couple more tomorrow, and just talking about anything from fire hydrant placements to security cameras to where the bleachers are going, what type of bleachers, to scoreboards. I mean, you name it. It's exhausting, but it's fun at the same time, right? So that's our number 1 goal is to finish our fundraising, and we're almost there. If anybody wants to talk a little bit about how they can get involved, hit me up. But at the end of the day, that's number 1 priority. Number 2 is really just continue to walk and trust God through this NCAA process. It's a 3-year process. They call it the provisional membership. So we just walked through what's called our exploratory year this past year, where we're learning about them, they're learning about us, they're guiding us as far as compliance and eligibility and some of the policies and procedures that we're going to have to adhere to, right? Sports sponsorship and those types of things. They had an official NCAA crew come to our campus and spend about 2.5 days with us on campus just to get to know our staff and our university leadership. So we came through that successfully. And now starting this fall, we'll be in our provisional year 1. So there's 3 provisional years. So you have to kind of get through those. It's kind of like a probationary period. So you have to get through those 3 years. And once you're through that, then you're full-fledged NCAA member. And, then you can kind of breathe a little bit. So those are my number 2 priorities, right now, is just get these facilities done and get through this NCAA process.
That is, man, that is some big news. Again, Regent University has been, seen as a well-accomplished schools with rich history. So now seeing, the growth of the athletic side, I believe it's going to bring on a different fan base per se, right? You're going to see a lot of community engagement, because one thing about Hampton Roads is we love and support our college sports. We have, just in Hampton Roads alone, you have, I want to say 5 universities. You got what? ODU, Norfolk State, Hampton, Christopher Newport, Virginia Wesleyan, Regent University. Okay, wait, I'm at 6 now. I think around 6 in this out of the 7 cities.
And that's not counting the community colleges either,
That's
right?
not counting the community colleges. You're absolutely right. So again, just rich history. We have a lot of well-known athletes that come out of the Hampton Roads area. I think what I'm seeing in Hampton Roads is just a lot of great exposure. Again, I go back to the growth with Regent University. We can, we see, former NFL star Michael Vick, coaching for his, having his inaugural season as a collegiate coach. It's so much great things happening in the area. So I just can't wait to see, more in store for Regent University. And again, Coach, I just want to always say, congrats on all the success you're doing over there. And I remember when I first read it in the paper, like, oh snap, Coach is a new AD at Regent, man. Let me shoot him an email or a text or something. I mean, it's just, again, and I guess that's the NCS as well, because it was a small private school, so you knew everybody. It was like family. If ever you come across someone that's at NCS, it's like, oh hey, how you doing? So yeah, I'm again, congrats on all the success. How can folks continue to support Regent University? Maybe stay up to speed on some of their upcoming games with some of their sports. How can they stay intact and in tune with what's stuff going on at Regent University?
Well, first you can go to regentroyals.com. That's our athletic website. And then we keep that thing up to date. Our sports communication director, Chris Sawyer, does an amazing job keeping that up to date with our schedules and, press releases and game write-ups and all those types of things. And then, you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram. I still call it Twitter. It's X, right? But follow us on
Hey, I still
Instagram,
say formerly known as Twitter.
There you go. So, we're very active, and we're always looking for ways of keeping Regent's name out there in the community and wanting to be, visible, because another benefit of athletics is it's the biggest window to a university, right, to the public. So, we try to stay relevant. We're having some competitive games out there now. Our teams are competitive. Our student athletes are starting to, as I say, move the needle. We're always trying to move the needle and get better. We want to be better today than yesterday, and we're striving to be better tomorrow than we are today, right? So just celebrating those little wins. But yeah, just follow us on social media, hit us up on the website there, and people can always reach out to me at athletics@regent.edu. Shoot me an email, and if anybody feels inclined to want to learn more about our Royals Booster Club or our golf tournament, or how they can maybe get involved with our facilities, or just connect, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
That is awesome. And I probably should have asked this question before we're about to take off. But Coach, before you leave, what was your one of your biggest accomplishments in your eyes in your 3 years so far at Regent University?
Oh man, there's been so much. That's a great question, Arrington. There's so many things I could share with you, and we've talked about a few of those, but I'd say probably the most, I guess, aha, or kind of, hey, this is cool moment,
Mm-hmm.
was when we got the official thumbs up that, hey, we're officially going NCAA Division III. Because that really solidified the investment that the university was willing to make, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really solidified the support to really grow this thing and do it the right way. And that like I said, it has nothing to do with the people before me. Everything's in God's timing. But I know, especially, the AD prior to me, he was trying to get a few certain things done here, and he just was kind of getting some resistance. So, and I knew some of that before, I interviewed and took the job. But that's when it really became a reality that, what, I think this university they're ready to jump in here, both feet, go all in, make this financial investment, and really support just building this thing and doing it right. So that's probably the most exciting moment. And then when we got the official letter from the Coast to Coast Conference and from the NCAA, that we were accepted as a provisional member and getting an invitation to join their conference as a member. So it's kind of those three combined, and they all kind of feed into each other.
Gotcha. Also, Coach, any good advice you can give to, say, that student who's majoring in sports that possibly wants to pursue a career as a director of athletics? It will be some good advice coming from a pro like you. What could you just provide before we leave the show?
Well, my biggest piece of advice is, be willing and ready to do anything, right?
Mm,
You can never have the attitude that something is beneath you. And I think part of that has to do with my upbringing. A lot of it has to do with just serving as a high school AD at a small private school. There's going to be days you got to go out on the field and pick up rocks, right? You got to go shovel dirt. You got to cut the grass. You got to drive the bus. You got to take the trash out. You got to do laundry, and just making yourself have a servant's mindset, number one. And number two, get in it and involved any way you can, whether it's if it's at the high school level, the rec level, college level, if you're a student there, go volunteer. Don't expect to get paid for every little thing you do. Get experience, right? Keep stats, run a scoreboard, do laundry, be willing to serve. And if someone has that heart and that mindset, it's eventually going to pay off. It just takes time. You got to pay your dues.
mm. I heard, do the laundry, mow the grass, pick up rocks. You've been talking to my wife, huh? See, that's the choice. That's the chores that she just told me I got to do this weekend. And see, I've been slacking. Hold up, something's not right. Do you know what she air get? Okay, we're gonna talk about this after the show. But Coach,
she sent me a text earlier and asked me to slide. She sent me a text earlier and asked me to slide that in there.
Trust me, she's like saying, yep. Oh, and also to tell him, no, I'm joking. But Coach, as always, I truly appreciate you taking the time out your busy schedule to come in here on the program. Look, don't go anywhere. I would love to chop it up with you just for a couple minutes once we end this conversation. But again, I want to thank you for always being one of those great leaders that that I can consider a friend that I've come across in my life. And congrats on all the great success you're doing at Regent University. You got a fan over here. I got to catch some games because I don't live too far from Regent, so I definitely got to catch some games and support. And yeah, again, thank you so much. And ladies and gents, none other than the one, the only Coach Michael Allen, Director of Athletics for Regent University. Thank you so much, Coach. But look, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna take you on backstage, and we're gonna close this conversation.
Thanks for having.
All righty, my friends. Look, I hope you enjoyed another great conversation here on the Arrington Gavin Show. So much that we discussed, from a career path that led by hard work, strong faith, great relationships, and we talked about the importance of why athletics and sports in general. Look, it's more than just sports. That builds character, that builds relationships, that builds so much more. And so seeing a program, an athletic program at Regent University grow into, I'm telling you right now, we're going to continue to see more and more growth. And look, this is just in 3 years and maybe a little longer than that, but we're seeing huge growth with that university. Again, Regent University, if you want to support or have more interest in it, please go online, check out Regent University for their amazing programs they have there, as well as athletic programs. So my friends, as always, thank you so much for staying with us here on the Arrington Gavin Show. We're going to continue to bring in great conversations, and we're just going to have fun. As always, fun, opinionated, and always informative, y'all. Peace and blessings. I will see you next time for another great episode here on the Arrington Gavin Show. Y'all stay safe out there. I'm out.
That's it for tonight on the Arrington Gavin Show. Thanks for tapping in and keeping the conversation alive. Don't forget, stay connected with us on all platforms. Follow at Arrington Gavin on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X, and subscribe to the official Substack for exclusive takes and deep dives you won't get anywhere else. We're here every weeknight, same time, same energy, same real talk. Until next time, stay bold, stay sharp, and stay true. That's what we do on the Arrington Gavin Show. Peace.